Are you curious about estrogen and whether or not you need it? Let's get into it. Okay, so a lot of women are scared of estrogen, and rightly so, because there were many studies done back in the day. I'm talking, years and years ago, 70s, 80s, where estrogen was not necessarily good for you, the synthetic forms. Now today they've come out with so many different forms of estrogen that they're lower risk. Now, depending on your history and some of your genetic components, estrogen is not for everybody. But what I want to talk about today is women in perimenopause that potentially may need estrogen. So I'm in perimenopause, I'm a midlifer, and my naturopathic doctor, I was telling her some of my symptoms and she said, I think you should try estrogen. So for me and anybody kind of in midlife, I'm still in my 40s, I was going, really? Do I need estrogen? I thought estrogen was just for kind of like 50 plus. No, that is not the case. So I am being told. Estrogen can be a lifesaver for people that are in perimenopause. Now, there's different forms of estrogen that I'm going to talk about. But I just want to let you know that no, estrogen is not just for people when they are in menopause. We need to be looking at our hormones when we are in perimenopause as well, because that is helping us transition into menopause a lot better. So, okay, let's look at estrogen. One of the types of estrogen, that my naturopath told me to try was Vagifem. So this is a vaginal suppository that, yes, you put into your vagina, and there's a loading dose. Now, with this estrogen, what I was told is that it is not systematic estrogen, which means that it does not get into your body. It is just for the issues that you're having in your hoo-ha. But that is not totally the case. There is a little bit from that suppository that does get into the system. So depending on what your needs are for estrogen, would depend on the different type of estrogen that you are taking. So for me, I tried this out. It didn't work for what I needed it for, but that's not to say that it's not going to work for you. I actually did, based on my symptoms, my naturopathic doctor prescribed me this and I gave it a shot and it didn't resolve the specific issues that I had. I then went and got a Dutch test done, which I recommend everybody do, because that will give you an actual idea of where your hormones are at, because it's not just all about estrogen. There is testosterone, there's pregnenolone, there is progesterone, there's DHEA, there's cortisol, there's everything. So the Dutch test will kind of give you a better snapshot of where everything is at. So after we did that, not to say that the Vagifem might be something that I will need down the road. But what we decided to do after looking at my specific results was go with a natural way to build up estrogen in my body. And I am going with Estromend. So what we have in here is kudzu root, red clover, bacopa, gotu kola, I'm going to say all these wrong, hops, strobial, donqui, sage leaf, and black cohosh. So these are all things that will naturally build up the estrogen in your body without getting a prescription. Now, one thing I want to note as well is, and I am not a naturopathic doctor, but I've been told this multiple times, before you bring estrogen on board, you need to make sure that you have ample supply of progesterone in your body. So what naturopathic doctors will do, will say, okay, let's test your progesterone. No, your progesterone is low. We need to get some more progesterone circulating in your body before we can bring in the estrogen. Now, estrogen, from what I've been told, is the mother of all hormones. So it can really, and so can progesterone, but for today, we're talking about estrogen. It can really affect a lot of different things going on in your body. So just a couple of signs of low estrogen would be dry skin, tender breasts, weak bones, trouble concentrating, moodiness, hot flashes, night sweats, no thank you, irregular periods. There's a whole list of things that estrogen, the problems rather of low estrogen that can be causing problems in your body. Now, foods to raise estrogen, just a few, and you can Google this. nuts, seeds, flax, sunflower seeds, apples, berries, soybean, chickpeas, chocolate. So yeah, so, you know, there are ways before you go into, and when I say prescription, I'm talking about natural bioidentical hormones, and that is just for a whole other video. But yeah, you can try to raise estrogen naturally before you get a prescription. But what I want to make people aware of is estrogen is something that you potentially do need in perimenopause. It is just not for the menopause stage. Now, here's another thing too that a lot of people in perimenopause will say. They'll say, oh, well, I'm estrogen dominant. So I just want to make one other thing clear there too. You could be estrogen dominant, but estrogen dominance doesn't mean you have a ton of estrogen. It means that you have more estrogen than your progesterone. That's typically how they look at it. But it doesn't mean that you've got crazy amounts of estrogen. You could be estrogen dominant and have low estrogen. So it's just a comparison there. It's really, especially when you're in perimenopause, and then, you know, once you're in menopause, you're kind of really depleted of all your hormones. So I don't want to say it's easier to supplement because you still have to find the balance. But when you're in perimenopause, your hormones and your estrogen and progesterone are literally doing this because nothing is regular. So it's really a lot harder to kind of dial that in. And I was talking to somebody and they were like, why have they not made something for women to just like pee on a stick that day and be like, okay, my estrogen's low. I need to go take some soy, or I need to take some black cohosh. We need that. Anyways, we don't have that. The medical system doesn't have that dialed in yet. So anyways, I don't want to go on and on about this, but I just wanted to make you aware that estrogen is something that you may need in your, when you're in perimenopause. And the best way to look at that is to get a Dutch test done, which you won't be able to get done through your MD, but you can get done through your naturopathic doctor. Balance your hormones can make you feel so much better. And it is a good thing to get dialed in perimenopause, like I said earlier, so that, hopefully it's smoother sailing into menopause. A couple of other little quick tidbits about estrogen is estrogen. Every organ in the body has a receptor for estrogen. That's why a lot of people say it is the mother hormone. Estrogen also helps your brain function, and estrogen drives your libido and sexual desire. And there's actually 4 different, I guess it's not variations, but hormones within the estrogen family, which is E1, E2, E3, and E4. And I'm not gonna be able to say them all because it's like estrone, estradiol, estrup, anyways. But there are a few there. So anyways, if you have any advice or information about estrogen, or you've tried different estrogen supplements and they've just been a lifesaver for you, or maybe they haven't, I would love to hear about it. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my latest videos. Okay, have a good one.